All right, guys, so today in front of me from Bardstown Bourbon Company, we have their West Virginia Great Barrel Company blended rye whiskey, which was finished in infrared toasted cherry and oak barrels. So this is the first cooperage collaboration which celebrates the forward-thinking West Virginia Great Barrel Company and the first custom blend to use infrared technology. So this is a blend of 7-year MGP rye, 95.5, and a 12-year Canadian corn whiskey. Definitely excited to get into this one, guys. So without further ado, let's go. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and get into the nose on this one. Yeah, so first thing that I get on this is it is very cherry forward. A little bit of sweet vanilla there further into the glass. The cherry is definitely present further into the glass. I do start to pick up a little bit of baking spices, some cinnamon, a little bit of nutmeg, a little bit further away from the glass. But really that cherry is definitely dominating the nose, again, into the glass and then further away as well. I get like a little hint of, there's like a little hint of like a lemon lime deal going on there, a little bit of citrus, probably from that 95.5. But then further into the glass as well, after that cherry starts to go away a little bit, there is definitely a sweet corn influence that's in there. Again, it's not super sweet, but you definitely get a little bit of that corn there on the nose. And it's nice because it has some of that sweetness, but I don't necessarily pick up any of the rye on the nose. I do get some of the the citrus side of it. That cherry is definitely still present. Definitely some baking spices, as I stated. Some cinnamon, some nutmeg in there. Some kind of like sweet vanilla there further into the glass. Yeah, that citrus is definitely further in there too. Again, along with that sweet vanilla, some of that cherry, baking spice is a little bit further away from the glass, and there's definitely some corn sweetness there present on the nose. With it being 12 years, I mean that should be a given. I would expect a little bit of rye, some of that rye spice to be present on the nose, being a 7-year 95.5, but I'm really not picking anything up. All right, guys, get into the palate. Cheers. So, on the palate, on that first sip, cherry definitely present, front to middle of the palate. Some of that 95.5 showing some of that spice. Definitely some rye spice now on the palate. On the mid to back palate, starts to bring forth some of that, like that black pepper, some rye spice. What I do notice about this one, though, is the finish actually lingers on for a little while. Medium to long finish, almost on the longer side. I do pick up like a dry nuttiness to this one. I wouldn't necessarily say like an almond, but more like a walnut, and kind of like that dryness from it. Really good first sip though. Again, that cherry. Definitely present there on the front and the middle of the palate, and as I said, some of that rye spice starts to show up mid to back palate. Some of that black pepper, some actual rye spice itself. Nice finish though. The finish is actually still lingering. This is again medium to long finish, definitely on the longer side on this one. Let's get a second sip. I will say this. This has a really nice viscosity to it. It's very oily across the palate, stuck to the inside of my lips, my tongue, my cheeks, back into the soft palate. Cherry still present on the palate there, front to middle. Little hint of vanilla sweetness there on the front. Rye spice started to tone down a little bit, and I get this. Like the vanilla starts to make an appearance there on like the mid to back palate too. So I mean, more towards the back palate. It actually kind of skipped over the center because of that cherry still kind of dominating. Rye spices toned down a little bit. I do get a little bit of that peppery finish, or the pepper in the finish, but again, a nice long lingering finish on this one. And they're still sitting on the back of the palate with that pepper is like that dry kind of walnut flavor. It's really nice though. I mean, the viscosity is just, it's very, very oily, very creamy mouthfeel. It's very, very sweet until you get into like the back of the palate. Front to mid is very, very sweet. Mid to back, it starts to turn into this this spicy nuttiness with a hint of vanilla that kind of flows through. Pretty good. Let's get into the last sip, guys. Cheers. That sip changed a bit. So, still some nice vanilla there on the front of the palate. And then, like, the cherry has kind of died down a little bit. I don't know if it's just because I've gotten used to it. But it starts to bring forth, like, this, like a hint of maybe some black tea. Very, very faint. Not a lot of, like, it's not like overly, it's not overly like potent, that tea note, but you definitely get the hint of it there on the sides of the palate. Like where I would pick up some citrus is where I'm picking up this like black tea note. And then, center of the palate, the mid palate into the back, again, that cherry note faded, that rye spice has faded. Still that black pepper, maybe a hint of vanilla, some like dry kind of walnut going on there, peppery, and then going into the finish is actually a pretty long finish on this one, and there is there's like this faint hint of it, almost a very small like reminder of like a cherry Twizzler or something there, that kind of like on the back of the palate, like it just kind of like appeared there. But yeah, I mean, overall, again, great mouthfeel to this one. Very sweet up front, and then into the back, it turns into, just on this last sip, a little bit of like some black tea, little hint of vanilla, like a dry walnut, some pepper there on the back. So it definitely transitions from that sweetness into, some earthy notes, a little bit of spice there on the back, long lingering finish. Again, that the black tea note that appeared, it's very odd because it's kind of like stuck to the sides of my palate where I would usually pick up like some citrus notes, some of those like sour notes. I've never really had that before, to be honest with you. I typically get like the black tea note like on the mid to back palate and then through the finish. Never really kind of sat there on the sides of the palate, so it's kind of thrown me off a little bit. Some of that herbal quality is definitely there after it kind of goes away. But overall, great blend here by Bardstown Bourbon Company. So I want to thank you guys for tuning into this episode of Dusty Dan's Whiskey Reviews. I want to send a big thank you over to the team at Bardstown Bourbon Company for supplying me with the sample here to review on the channel. Again, guys, this is another example of just some of the experiments and stuff like that they're doing over there at Bardstown Bourbon Company, and their collaborations with some of these cooperages and other companies. Just, it almost seems just like it's just endless possibilities with Bardstown and their and just the things that they can do, the opportunities that they have, just their collaborations with everyone is just it's amazing to see, and it's really cool to be able to try some of these whiskeys, these experimental whiskeys. Overall, though, this is a bottle that I would actually pick up. For one, the mouthfeel on this one is fantastic. Number two, the finish is a long finish in my opinion. In that medium to long category, but definitely on the longer side. And then three, I really like the transition from that really, really sweet front to mid palate, and then just instantly it just transitions into this spicy kind of peppery, dry nuttiness into the mid to back palate. Some crazy kind of like black tea notes there on the sides of the palate where I would typically pick up some citrus. But this is definitely a bottle that I would go and pick up for sure. I'd really like to see what's going to happen to this as it gets a little bit of a little bit more air to it. I do want to spend some more time with it to see what else I may be able to pull out, or I may have another pour after this to see if that cherry just completely fades away, and if there's another kind of flavor or two that kind of appear in its place. Either way, though, definitely a bottle that I would grab here from Bardstown Bourbon Company, guys. But if you're looking for more reviews like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, bell notification to be alerted of any upcoming reviews or live streams. You also find me on Instagram at Dusty Dan's Whiskey Reviews. And until next time, guys, stay dusty.